Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of this Organized Life podcast. I am your host, Lori Palau, and I am really excited for today's conversation. One of the things that's really important to me in this show is to be able to provide different perspectives from people of all walks of life in different seasons of life, from different genders, different socioeconomic backgrounds, because I think a lot of what our own experiences are have a direct correlation to kind of where we are in our lives and the experiences that we're dealing with. And our guest today is really somebody who I'm very interested in chatting with because she's very inspirational and somebody that I can learn a lot from. Joining me today is Kim Williams. And Kim and she's going to tell you about herself, but we were introduced to a mutual friend, our friend Kara Harvey, who runs Purpose Driven Mom. And we were both speakers at the Purpose Driven Mom Summit. And Kim's platform is she runs a community called Single Black Motherhood, and she's going to talk all about it. But why I wanted to have her on the show is because a lot of the things that I talk about come from my perspective as a Gen X, married, white person with, the experiences that are in my own wheelhouse. And I have a lot of friends who are single moms. I know a lot of single moms, and I feel like I really want to shed some light. It's very important to me to talk about some of the struggles that they face that are different than people that are someone like myself. And so when I was introduced to Kim, I did like a little bit of internet stalking on her, was like, she is awesome. I love everything about her. And I have to have her on the show. And so I invited her to come on, talk about her life, her community, what it's like to be a single mom of, I think her daughter's 8. She's going to confirm that for me, but I think her daughter's 8. She's also just recently relocated. So she's been through a move during the pandemic and just kind of talk about organization in her world, what that looks like. And again, just sharing life through her lens. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome my friend, Kim Williams, to the show. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you so much, Laurie, for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. So I gave our listeners like really uber top line about you, but can you just in your own words let us know a little bit about who you are and a little bit about your story?
Yeah, sure. So, my name is Kim. As Laurie stated, I am a mom to an 8-year-old girl. We just relocated from Houston to a small town in Arizona called Kingman. We literally know no one here. I finished my MBA in December and I started applying for jobs at the end of January. And then I accepted the job last month in February. And so we just moved here. We're still in the process of transitioning, but we are excited to begin this new journey. So, thank you again for having me, and I look forward to the
Oh my
conversation.
God, you're so adorable. And I'm like, I know I'm like old enough to, I feel like I'm like old enough to be your mom, but I want to, so, I mean, there's so much that I want to talk to you about. So I want to talk to you about like, first of all, the fact that you're moved to a city, which I love that. Well, congrats on your job. First and
Thank
foremost,
you.
congrats on
Thank
your
you.
job and for completing your MBA. That's two like major accomplishments.
Thank you.
Um, Moving to a new city is scary and exciting, I'm sure, knowing
Yes.
nobody, having a child, which in some ways makes it easier to meet people, I think. I don't know, because at least
Yeah, it does.
when she's in school and in activities, you're like forced to meet people as opposed to like moving when you're a single person and you're like, okay, how am I meeting people? But can you just kind of give us like your backstory? So you moved from Houston, but is tell us a little bit about where you're from and kind of like, I don't know, walk us through your single motherhood journey, if you will.
Yeah, sure. I'll try to do it as quickly as possible.
That's
So
okay. Take your time. Take your time. We're all ears.
I went to undergraduate, of course, and my sophomore year, I had my daughter. So I became pregnant, and her dad and I stayed together for I think a few years after that, we tried to make it work, but he was just really doing his thing. You know, guys mature less quicker than women. So it's like he was not getting it together. And I was just like working two jobs, trying to finish school. And I'm just like, I can't do this. Like, I am working harder than this man. No, this is not okay. So I moved out because we were living together at the time. We had got an apartment together. So I moved out and I got my own place. And I told myself, if things do not get better within the year, this is it for me. Like, I'm done with this so called relationship and I'm leaving. And so I had some family members that lived in Houston and they suggested I move to Houston because I could prosper there. Nothing literally was in Mississippi where I was living, not many opportunities. My degree was in biology. And so it was either I stay in the lab or I teach. Well, I didn't really like the lab anymore because I was disconnected from people. So I was just like, what am I going to do? A friend in college, she talked to her HR manager about getting me a job at the Salvation Army. So I started there as an HR assistant. And so I worked there for a couple of years and then I was like, it's time for me to go. I was only making 955 at the time. And this was
As an
like
HR assistant?
yes, 2013, 2014, something like that. So yeah, I was just like, I'm literally working two jobs. This cannot be my life. And so I decided, like, after things did not get better with my daughter's father and I ended that whatever it was called and I left. I told him we were gonna move to Houston. He didn't have much to say. I mean, he was focused on his own life, he was getting his master's, he was still living his life normal. Okay. And so I moved to Houston and I stayed with that family for 6 to 7 months. So that did okay in the beginning. It was fine. They helped me out. But then around the 5 to 6 month mark, they started to asking me, when was I going to get a real job? You know, when was I going to do this? When was I going to do that? And things just started to turn. And so I felt like I was in this toxic environment and I had to get out of there. I had to create an exit plan. So I found an apartment and I took my daughter to live with my grandma for a couple of months in Mississippi. So after she went to stay, I moved into my apartment. I had nothing in there. And that relative asked me to hand over the keys. So I literally went and got an air mattress from Walmart. And I slept on that for a couple of days and till I could get some furniture. And then that was the start of like living in Houston, you know? And so 5 years later, we're here today. And I made it through while I was there. I started my podcast to find community because I was there. I didn't know anybody except the family that I moved with. And I was just like, I know there has to be somebody out there going through the same thing as me. But I Googled, it was hard to find. All I found about single Black moms was like bad articles. They couldn't do this, they couldn't do that. They were on, government assistance. It was just horrible. And so I was like, I had to have these conversations about what we're doing because nobody else is doing it. And I started looking for podcasts, and all I found were, pretty much white women that had been divorced or they had really good support systems. I didn't have that. I really, my family, they would help me out with my daughter, but I didn't have anybody to call to help me out financially. I had no one. And so I just decided I would start the podcast. And then I was just like, well, people are going to listen and they're going to want to find me somehow. And so that's where Single Black Motherhood was created. I was like, this is going to be my Instagram community. And I've met people all around the world. I've literally met them online and offline. And so it's just been so amazing, the ability to build community right where I was. I met so many moms in Houston. And literally my last week before I moved to Arizona, everybody like was taking me out for lunch and dinner. And it was such an amazing thing. And I'm just so grateful to be in this space today. So yeah,
Oh my
that's pretty
God.
much
I
my
you're
story
you're my hero. I'm not even joking.
in
Like
a nutshell.
first of all, can I ask how old you are? Am I
Yes, I'm 29. Yeah.
okay? So
I feel like I should be much further today, but I'm just like, you know what?
oh
I've
my
been through a
gosh,
lot.
you're so much. I mean, first of all, so all I keep thinking is about logistics, right? So to me, I'm thinking going back to, and I have a daughter that's a sophomore in college right now. So like to think of, and she's pretty responsible and like self-sufficient and independent and doesn't ask us for a lot. Like I'll check in every now and again. I'm like, you alive? You good? She's like, yeah, I'm good. So,
Yeah.
but to think about going to school, working two jobs, and being a mom, like
Hmm.
I, I, I can't imagine logistically. Did you not sleep? Like, how did you even?
Yeah, it was crazy. Because like, my daughter had to get her on a sleep schedule. And so I would wake up like 4 a.m. to get my work done for school. So that is how I was able to kind of get that done. But it was tough. It was tough. And then I will say that my grandma, she actually kept her for a couple months while I got adjusted. Like after I think it was 6 weeks, you have to wait, you have to get your checkup and get cleared to go back to work. So I went back because I was working at a restaurant part time. I was serving tables. So that is what I did. And so I did that to earn some money. I couldn't afford daycare. So I had to drive. My grandma at the time, she lived an hour and a half to 2 hours away from the college I was attending. So my grandma would keep her and I would go on the weekends until I found that HR assistant job that I could put her in daycare. So yeah, I think that was about two
How,
months that I did that.
I'm just, again, I'm in awe, and I'm not. And if I ask like to, if I like overstep,
Oh
just
no,
be
it's
like,
fine.
yeah, because I just am trying to like again wrap my brain around. So you're working, making 9.50 an hour
Plus
as
the serving tables. I think it was $2
plus.
and something plus tips at the time.
Okay,
Yes.
but now you have to pay for childcare
Mhm.
on top of rent, diapers. I don't know if you were breastfeeding or not, but like
I
formula,
tried
the
breastfeeding.
food.
Family was not supportive, so I had to stop that.
Yeah,
But I will say I did receive government assistance, so I'm not ashamed of that. I did get
you
the formula.
good. Because I'm like,
So
how were you able to
yeah, so I
survive?
I got WIC and they gave formula and then they provided some food as she got older. So
Okay,
that is how I was able to kind of move along. And then I had to buy some formula obviously out of my pocket because they only gave you like 4 to 5 cans or so.
sure.
So yeah.
Because again, I mean, the amount of work, like again, I sit here and I think about in my world, the feelings of overwhelm and fatigue and all of that. And again, anybody listening that sits in my camp, like you got nothing, you got nothing to
Mhm.
say because like the amount of everything that kind of falls on you in terms of just the responsibility alone is a lot. I know when my kids were little, I was like a single mom, but I had a paycheck coming because my husband traveled a lot. So I was doing all the things,
Mhm.
but I didn't have, thankfully, I didn't have the financial burden. So I can't imagine. And I know that I have listeners out there that whether they were young moms like yourself or they found themselves, later in life being a single mom and wearing all of the hats, literally, financially, emotionally, all the things. Like, can you just speak to what that's like? Cuz I got to imagine it's what right? Like you don't know any other way, really.
Yeah, and so I never thought of it as like you said, "Oh my gosh, it's overwhelming." I never thought like that. It was just like, "This is what I have to do to provide for me and my child." Now, her dad did help out. We obviously were both working. So, we did like 50-50 childcare, and then,
Okay.
it took us a while to get to a place where he would help out with other things. Uh-oh, sorry.
You're fine. It's
Want me
all
to
good.
repeat that part? It took us a while before he was able to help out with, other things outside of daycare because he, I guess, didn't understand. So I was trying to like buy diapers, I was trying to buy formula. And then finally I would say, hey, she's about to run out of formula, or hey, she needs clothes, she can't fit her clothes, like that sort of thing. And it was, like I said, a struggle. But then we finally got to a place where now, she's 8, we both sort of help out with whatever she needs. So he's not on child support. I don't receive that. And because we just transitioned to Arizona, he's not really paying childcare right now. So he just still like sends whatever he can. I don't really say you need to pay this amount. We don't really have an agreement in place. So he just sorts of helps out. But initially it was tough for me because I felt like everything was on my shoulders outside of the daycare because he didn't see it, and I would like complain, but then it would not click. And so I remember hearing somebody say, you can't depend on child support as a source of income, whether it's mandated by the state or whether, the father is contributing on his terms. Like, you can't depend on that. And from that moment, I said, I have to do what I have to do for me and my child. Like, I can't worry about whether he's going to help out this time or he's not going to give this. And I never felt like I needed to go through like the government to receive that assistance, because my mom, she got government assistance. And I was always like, I don't want to be that mom. And so I had like, I don't think it was a feeling of guilt or shame, but it's just like I didn't want to do it. But I had to do the WIC thing. But outside of that, I did nothing else, because I was like, I can work and I can do what I need to do to make this happen. So
Amen. I love it. I think you're amazing. And then talk about like your daughter growing up, right? So she's
mhm.
8, which is kind of a fun age because it's
Yeah,
like
super fun.
she's fun, she's got a personality.
Mhm.
Well, I don't know. I had an 8-year-old that was kind of sassy. I don't know if
She's
she's
very sassy,
is she a sass?
very, and her vocabulary is larger than mine.
And again, you know what you know, right? So your experiences are yours. But, I mean, here she is. She sees her mom working, going to school, supporting her, doing everything that she can. And, I would imagine she's got friends in school that, come from a 2-family household and things like that. So she sees, the way other people live. Just, I'm curious if that's ever been like topics of
Oh,
conversation in your house
of
and
course.
how
So
that,
yeah, I
what
started
that
her
looks like.
very young. I want to say 3 or 4. I started with a book. It was all about different families or something like that, and it talked about, like, stepmoms and stepdads and, different types of family structures, so that when the time came, it wouldn't be so hard to explain why it was just the both of us. And she has asked questions a lot of times about why her dad and I are not together, because we're very cordial. Like, we don't hate each other. We can have conversations. And she's like, why don't we live together? She asked that around 3 or 4. And so I explained to her that, sometimes people have relationships and they don't work out. And so they go their separate ways. And, just trying to figure out how to explain that. I don't even know if I did the best job. But then her dad told her, like, about why we broke up. And so now she knows and she doesn't ask anymore. So we were just very honest and transparent with her from the beginning. So now she understands that there are single parent families. There are like 2 moms, 2 dads. There's like a mom and a dad. So she understands the different types of family structures. Some kids are raised by their grandmas, like I
Mhm.
was, and so there's just a lot that I have to teach her. And she probably knows way more than she should at 8. But I think that, it helps her out with the questions that come into her mind. So
Well, I think it's great for that, and I'm a believer in being honest and upfront with your kids too, and so, I mean, I love it, and I think, again, knowing that not everybody looks, your family unit looks the way that but not everybody has the same type of, house or apartment or car, whatever, and again,
and that was
um
another thing too. She wanted to know why we didn't live in a house. Why do we always live in an apartment? And so we took a walk through this neighborhood because we stayed next to like this subdivision. And I started talking to her about banks and how they finance houses, and people don't always have money to pay for those houses. And so she learned about how it works to buy a house. And then like debt, we had a conversation about that. And mommy is trying to get out of debt so that we can buy a house. I don't want to be in a house and have so much debt, just explaining all of that to her, and it connects.
I love it. We had similar conversations in our house because we live in an area that it's like an upper middle class area, but we live in an like an average house. It's beautiful. I love it. But a lot of my kids' friends live in these big mansions and McMansions and all the things. And we just live a modest lifestyle. Like I'm very, very, very blessed, and my kids are blessed, but we don't like drive fancy cars. I mean, look at me. I'm like, whatever, plain Jane. And we have had conversations with our kids that just because so and so lives in a big house or so and so drives a fancy car or goes on all of these vacations, it doesn't always mean like you can't always judge a book by its cover. You don't
Right.
know. And we've had conversations about that. And again, I think regardless of whether you're a single mom, whether you're family, like I think it's important to have these conversations with your kids and have these dialogues because these are part of what I call the life skills that help
Yeah.
them when they get older so that they know that, oh, you have to work and this is how you get a house. Like you said, this is how you get a house, or this is how you get a car, or this is what you need
And
to
you have
get
to
all
have
of these
money
things.
to do these things, and if I don't make enough money, like, I can't afford these things, and, it really helped with our transition to move here because I took her to the site visit, and I said, "Okay, if they offer me a job and they offer the amount that I'm asking for, then we will most likely move," and so when I was talking to her, like, "Hey, I might be accepting a job," she's like, "How much are they offering?"
Good for her. I love it. I
So
love
yeah,
it.
and I show her like I had these debt trackers that I had on my wall, and I would show her like when I make a payment, I would color it off. And so I recently paid off 2 credit cards, and she's like,
Awesome.
"How are you doing? Like, how often are you making those payments?" And she's like my little accountability partner.
I love it. I'm all about that. I had Rachel Cruz on my show not too long
Oh
ago.
my
She's
gosh,
yeah,
awesome!
do you know who the Ramsey team
I
is?
have Smart Money, Smart
You
Kids.
there you
Yes, and
go.
I have I think it's the box that they created for the kids. I have that too, and I've read the, Total Money Makeover, yes.
Oh my gosh.
And I
Okay.
love how Rachel and Dave talked about money in that book, so
I
yes.
love it. Do you have Rachel's new book?
No, I don't have the new book.
I'm gonna afterwards you'll give me your address. I'm gonna send you a copy.
Oh,
I'm gonna send it to you as my gift to you. So it's a
awesome.
great book. We were all talking about it. And it's awesome because I think it's really helpful for parents and kids. So there you go. I'll make sure I put a link for anybody listening to Rachel's new book
Yes.
in the show note and go back and listen to my episode with her. It was back in January of this year. So
Okay, I'm gonna go listen after
yeah,
this.
it was
Yeah.
great. So I'll make sure I send it. But yeah, I think when I talk about living an organized life and what this show is all about and what the whole like Simply Be Organized brand is, that's what it is. It's not only about being organized with a bin or a basket and your pantry and your closet. I mean, yes, that's important too, but there's so many multifacets of what an organized life looks like. And when it comes to budgeting your time or budgeting your finances and empowering your kids to do things. I'm
Yeah,
sure since it's the two of you, I would imagine like there's things that she has to do in terms of
of
whether chores
course.
or responsibilities because
It's just us.
it's just the two of you, right? And so what are some of the things, and again, it's like you said, you probably don't really thought about it because this is just this is just the way it is for you. But
Yeah.
I guess if there was something that you be like, wow, it would be really nice for me to be able to kind of delegate this to a partner or somebody, like I wish I didn't have to handle this.
Oh
What
my
would
gosh,
be
laundry is that thing for me that I just wish that I had somebody to do my laundry.
I
But
wish
now
I could
I've
I wish I
taught
could
my
send my
daughter.
husband your way because
Yeah, I taught
he's
my
my
daughter
laundry
how
guy.
to recently do laundry, and so now she's responsible for her own laundry, so it doesn't make it as bad. But that's the one thing that I'm just like, I don't think it's the actual washing and drying, it's the folding and hanging up and but I watched the Marie Kondo Netflix was it a series or something like that? And
Yeah.
I really like the way that she taught how to fold. And so I've been trying to keep up with that. It's
Don't
something
make it
else.
it don't but if it works for you, great, but
I
don't
love it though.
don't
I
make
love the organization of how the clothes looks in the drawers, but I just try not to touch those clothes. I just try to use the ones that hang up.
you don't want to use the pretty clothes.
I'm like, it's so good
Oh,
because I can find what I need immediately instead of picking that up. So yeah, I like it.
okay. And let me ask you on the flip side, right? So we talk about laundry being kind of like your not most favorite part.
Yes.
I, I would have to say though, sometimes in co-parenting, there's a lot you can butt heads in terms of how you agree to do certain things or whether it's discipline or organization or allowances or whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
So in some ways I'm like, well, it's your way is that's
Yeah,
that's the
I
way it
mean, for
goes.
somebody else.
Yeah. So I mean, what would you say to like people out there who might be, struggling as single moms? We're gonna take a break after this, and then I want to come back and I want to do like a deep dive into your membership and talk about that, because I'm sure that there are people that are out there that are interested in learning more. So I want to talk about that. But I mean, I guess anything that you can say that like you could tell yourself 8 years ago, right when you first had her, that maybe now that you've been through this, you're a little bit older, a little bit wiser, kind of advice to yourself as a new
Ask for
mom.
more help. Ask for more help. Ask for more help. Because when young and I was so used to being independent, I started working at 14. And so I've just been working for a while. I've been doing things my way for a long time. And when I had my daughter, I wanted to do it all myself and I wanted to do it my way. And I remember one day my daughter was crying and I just started crying too. I just was like, I cannot do this alone. And I called my grandma and I asked her if I could come home for a while because I needed help. So if that was anything that I could offer to my younger self, it would have been ask for help sooner. And I went there. My grandma helped me out so much. And then I had other family in that area too. So yes. And then after that, I still went through a period. And even now, as a single mom, it's still kind of hard to ask for help or maybe receive help. I think I've gotten to the point now where I can actually ask, but receiving help is kind of hard because, it's just like, you do this stuff all by yourself all the time. So when somebody comes in to help you, you want it done a certain way. You don't want to relinquish that control to allow them to do it their way so that you can receive the help. So yeah, that's my advice.
I love that. And it's funny because I was your age when I had my first,
Hmm.
and I was that's probably one of the biggest things that I would say if I had to tell myself also, it would be ask for more help. I was very controlling in terms of like, I have to do it and I have to do it my way. And I also felt like it's my responsibility. It was almost like a
Hmm.
prideful thing for
Because it's like
me.
I have this child, I have to do what it takes to raise this
Yes.
child and do the things
Yes. Like I
that are
had to
necessary.
prove something, and I'm like, who am I proving
Yeah,
this to? And then,
right.
and I love what you said about receiving it, because that is so important to not just ask for it, but then when you get it, to actually like humble yourself to receive it. That's
Yes.
like so huge. I love it.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more in detail your about your group, your community
Okay.
online, and how people could get involved in that.
Okay, awesome.
All right, Kim. So tell me, when did you start? Talk us through like when you started Single Black Motherhood community.
Okay, I think it was in 2018. I
Okay.
don't remember exactly, but I'm thinking it was around 2018.
Okay. And was it just like, so it was a podcast and a handle? Like, tell me how you started. It was just like, I'm just going to start putting it out there and just talking.
So
If I
yeah,
build
so I
it, they
went
will
through this
come.
period, yeah, where I was trying to figure out a name for the podcast. And I was just like, well, I don't plan to be a single mom forever, right? So I was just like, how can I transition like if I want to keep this going and still talk about motherhood, but I'm no longer like, single. So I thought experiencing motherhood, that is the name because I will be a mother forever, right? Even when your kids grow up, you're still a mother. They still call you. So that's how I came up with the name Experiencing Motherhood Single and Black. So then like I said, I created the podcast and I was just like, people are going to want to reach out to me. They're going to want to know what I'm doing, who I am, that sort of thing. And so I started to think about names again. And I was like, experiencing motherhood, I think it was taken, and so I had to come up with a different handle. And so that's where Single Black Motherhood was formed, because I was just like, well, I'm single, I'm Black, and this is motherhood. So I was like, there we go. And then so many people were ashamed of like single Black motherhood or calling themselves a single Black mom because of the stereotype that went along with it. So I was like, I'm going to change this narrative. And a lot of the times when people see the page and they don't click on it, they automatically think negatively until they go to it and see what it is that I'm doing. Because I remember a mom DMing me before and she was like, she hasn't seen like any positive single Black mom communities. And a lot of them bash the dads or they do this or that. And so she was just really excited to find my page. And I was just like, wow. So that just confirmed that, I chose a good name.
I mean, I think again, I think it's brilliant in the sense that to me, any people get overly creative, and I'm not a marketing person, like I'm not a marketing expert by any stretch of the imagination, but it's part of who you are in this
Yeah.
particular season of your life, and it's direct and honest, and I don't see
Very
anything
honest.
negative. But to me, I don't know, maybe because I'm a very like tell it like it is person, where I hate when I go to something and I'm like, what is this? Like, what does this mean? What is this? What is this business? What is this? I get it. So like obviously it pointed me in a direction to say, oh, I want to learn more about this. Obviously, doesn't, I'm probably not your core demographic of member, but I think it's definitely like eye-catching and from a marketing standpoint, not that you were intending to do that, but I think it's
Yeah,
it's
not at
definitely
all. I just
attracting.
wanted to attract people that look like me. That's it.
Well, and that's the thing. And I find it, and again, this is probably just some sort of ignorant white comment, but like I would never have thought it had a negative connotation at all. Like I
Yes.
didn't think
If you
anything
Google
negative.
single Black mom, yes, it's it's terrible. But
Well,
yeah.
I am glad that you are changing the narrative on that, because you're clearly an inspiration for a lot of people on
Yes, and
multiple
like you said,
levels.
I've attracted all different types of races, married women, married men, men, single women. So I have all types of people now that are
They better not be
following.
creeper men. They better not be creeper men, because this is like the
No,
older
I've met
mom.
some really good, like, good guys that are like, their moms were single moms and they want to give
Okay.
back, or, it's just been amazing the journey that this has taken me through.
So is it a structured community for anybody that's interested in it? Obviously, we're going to link up to the podcast. We'll link up, give your handle and everything. But do people, is it like a membership group that people join? Is it more just communication? Talk us through a little bit about kind of how
So
your community is grown.
initially it was just a communication, right? So I would hop on Instagram every week. We do our check-ins. Then I created a Facebook group. But then it got overwhelming because I was in grad school trying to do all the things, work my full-time job, help my daughter out with school. And so I was just like, okay, how can I still like provide value, but in the way that I want to. So I tried creating this online membership, and it's a private community where we could just have to communicate with ourselves. But I think I'm going to be in a process of like transitioning out. So I'm in this stage, just full transparency of like, how to get back to like, really engaging with my audience and finding another way, because it seems that, moms are really busy and I don't know what it means for them to prioritize communicating with other moms like I do. So I'm in that space of like trying to figure that out. But yes, I did take a stab at creating a private community, and I mean it's been great. But the active members are about 50%, and then the others are kind of like just there to see what's happening and what we're
Mhm.
talking about. So yeah, I don't know what this next season is going to look like, but that's where we've been. So mainly communication. Like I said, I had the Facebook group, and then I would do Instagram lives where people can ask their questions, they submit them in stories, and then we just have dialogue. So yeah.
I
And a lot
love
of
it.
people found it very beneficial. People have went to therapy, they've got new jobs, they've built businesses. So I mean, it's been really, impactful.
I can't, it's incredible to think of like the platform that you've created. And I think again, it just for anybody that's an entrepreneur, because we have a lot of people that are entrepreneurs that listen to our show as well, whether
Mhm.
they're professional organizers or, you know, people that are like looking to either do a side hustle or start their own thing. And again, when you build something, when you create something that is authentic to kind of who you are and is an extension of your beliefs or what you're going through, I think that resonates with people. And obviously you've done an amazing job, and we'll make sure that I can't wait to see what's in store for you. I mean, obviously you have a lot going on with this new job that you're
Yes,
starting.
I start on Monday, so
Oh my
I'm
gosh. Well, we're
excited.
going to have to
Yeah.
do a check. Well, we'll have to do a check-in. And how is your daughter with transitioning with school? Because you did it in the
She's
middle
been
of
fine. The first
local
day,
school.
I will say, was a little hard. She had a meltdown and she was talking to her friends on FaceTime from Houston. And they lived in that same apartment complex. And so they were together. And she was like, "But I want to be with Dahlia and Mila, and I can't be there. I just want to go back to Houston." But the next day, she connected with some girls at the school. And then she found out they went to the same after school program. So they connected, and now she's good.
Oh, kids are resilient. Kids are way more
They
resilient than we
and the
often,
school
often.
is really different from our other school because we're in a very small town, like I said earlier. So they don't have a lot of resources like the schools did in Houston. So that's an adjustment too.
Mm.
So I want to figure out whether I keep her in that school or switch her. But yeah, just still in this transition phase of what am I gonna do? I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Well, you're amazing. I love everything about you, and I just can't wait to keep following along on your journey. Before we head to our last break, just let our listeners know the best place to connect up with you, to learn more about
Yeah.
the podcast, the community, all the things.
If you just follow at Single Black Motherhood on Instagram or go to the website singleblackmotherhood.com, everything is connected there.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I want everyone to sit tight. We're going to take one more quick break. And when we come back, I'm going to put Kim, is not that she's already been in the hot seat, but we're just going to do our final wrap up questions. So sit tight. Okay, Kim. So again, this has been educational, in, totally inspirational, and I can't like love you more. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and your wisdom with our community here at This Organized Life. So I always like to wrap up our show by asking our guests a few questions.
Okay.
Since we get inspired by you, we're always wondering what book, but it also, if you're not a big reader, you could say a podcast, but ideally, what book in your life has been really transformational or inspired you in some way, shape, or form?
Oh my gosh. So I love books.
Okay,
And
good.
most recently, I want to say a couple months ago, I read Believe in Bigger by Marshawn Evans. Oh my
Okay.
gosh, life changing. Because I will tell you this quick story
Yeah,
of
please.
how I was applying for jobs. And I was starting to apply for the same position that I had. I just wanted more money. But then I was reading this book and something said, "Believe bigger, Kim. You want a management position. Go after what you want. You have to believe bigger. You have to believe for more in yourself. Like you are capable," and just really speaking life into myself. And I started from there, just applying for manager positions. I have no management experience and I got a manager position. So, so
Look at
I
that,
was like, this
people.
book has literally been life changing for me.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
yes.
Oh, I love asking this question because selfishly, I learn about all these great books and inspiring books. So I can't wait. That's awesome. Thank you so
Yes.
much. And then the last two questions that we ask every single guest, because our show is all about authenticity, honesty, and where we're thriving in the world of organization, whatever that looks like for you.
Yes.
Where in this season of life do you feel like you are super organized, and where do you feel like a little bit of a hot mess?
So I think that I'm organized in the sense of like doing things that I need to do in terms of time. Like I am really like, okay, I told you earlier off the mic, I was like, I thought I was supposed to be on here at 10. So I was literally up here working on a blog post. So I'm like, I have to get this done. But then where my hot mess is the whole like, I have things everywhere because we just moved. And so it's like we're in a temporary house right now. So trying to decide whether I want to put things in places or whether I just want to keep a lot of it in my luggage. Like I'm just a hot mess in that area. So just
Well,
get
that's situational. That's going to end. That's
yeah,
a
but
temporary
even
thing.
I think like at my apartment, it was messy in that sense too
All
before
right.
I moved. And it's funny that we're having this like conversation with you because I thought like, should I hire an organizer? Because my apartment is like all over the place, but looking at me on social media, you think I'm organized, but I'm just organized in different situations, I guess. And the time is like the one thing that I'm like, I have to be mindful of how I allocate my time. Everything else could be up for debate.
Well, I am here on the air to tell you the truth. So in addition to the book, once you guys get settled in your apartment, I will I will gift you, since I'm not there, I'll gift you a virtual organizing session and we'll
Oh,
go
so
through your
sweet.
space. And then if you need additional help, we have this amazing partner program community of professional organizers that are all over. So I
Wow.
have professional organizers that are all over the globe, and I've got some in Arizona. So
Nice.
if after, even after my, our consult, if you need some one-on-one help, I'll connect you up with somebody out there, but consider that a
Awesome. Thank
housewarming
you so
gift.
much. Oh,
Yes. Yes. So,
I
um,
appreciate it, Laurie.
oh my gosh, listen, it's the least I can do. You're so inspiring, and anything that I can do to help support you. And, what's your daughter's name?
McKinley.
McKinley, and
Yeah.
even get her in on it, just like with the
Yeah.
money, getting kids involved. And everyone that's listened to me forever knows that I talk about the importance of getting kids involved in, ownership and organizing. And she's already on track with laundry. And I'm sure she's like way ahead of the game on things, but, I think this is great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And if this is your first time tuning in, make sure that you click the subscribe button so you don't miss any episodes. You can get our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on social media. We're all over at Simply Be Organized, wherever you hang out. Or we have a Facebook group, which is This Organized Life Podcast. Post questions, topic ideas, anything that you want to see. Again, obviously, we are here to help inspire and educate you in all areas so that you can live your best life. So until next week, I'm Lori Palau. Peace out.